the White House sees no hard no's, but doesn't necessarily mean they're yeses just yet. And I think those three issues are exactly where we're going to see a lot of movement. Just now, we've heard some things coming off the Hill as senators are coming back. They're starting to talk to reporters about will there any kind of movement on the revenue side to get some of those people worried about the deficit back. I know Senator Collins is still pushing for some kind of change on that state and local tax deduction here. I still think all signs still point to this getting done this week, but what the bill looks like now is not what it will look like on Thursday or Friday when we have this final vote, because these things are still being worked out.
And it will look different still, won't it, Ben, if they do pass something from what ultimately gets worked out in conference.
Right.
And that's where the real sausage gets made.
Yeah, that's where the rubber hits the road, because once you presumably, and I think Nick's probably right, that they get to 51 votes in the Senate and get this thing passed, I think people like Johnson, Daines, some others, they want to see, they want to show their constituents that they got changes. They got changes on pass-throughs, and perhaps Susan Collins on state and local. They come to some agreement that brings them along. So then they pass it. Then they have to reconcile with the House. And that's not that easy, because there are a lot of different provisions in those two bills, particularly as they pertain to state and local tax deduction, when these tax cuts sunset for individuals. So there will be more sausage being made in that process to get to a final package.
Whatever happened, Nick, to the matter of the carried interest income? Whatever happened to that?
That hasn't been in there. That's something they've moved on completely before. They've kept those provisions.
Didn't the president say he wasn't going to allow that to be to carry on?
I think they had to pick their battles on this one. And what I mean, what's fascinating to me is how this has evolved. What hasn't changed at all is the fact that a corporate tax cut is in it, which I think why the markets love it, why stocks keep going up. Although they've changed the timing of that somewhere, getting that cut has been front and center the whole time, and it's not, I think, going to change at all.
Isn't Tyler so charming in his question, Ben, about carried interest not getting touched? I mean, those rich people managed to keep that deduction in. How does that happen?
They did. Well, that happens because they're good at lobbying.
And if the concern is widening the deficit, isn't that a target of opportunity?
But you're dealing with a relatively small amount of revenue.
Yeah,
you're talking about getting rid of carried interest.
But big checks for every single politician when it comes to...
It's not terribly surprising that the private equity industry would be able to protect its carried interest taxation in this bill. It's going to be a talking point for Democrats to say, hey, you promised us you'd crack down on carried interest and you didn't do it. So what I think is super interesting right now, though, is you see this provision from James Lankford, Republican of Oklahoma, saying, okay, we're worried about the deficit and debt impact, so let's put a provision in here that if economic growth is slow and this thing isn't paying for himself, let's automatically raise taxes, which is the absolute last thing you want to do if you're going into a recession and economic growth is slowing. So we're seeing a little bit of crazy times here in what people are willing to do to stick in this bill to try to get it done.
Nick Johnston, do blue state GOP members matter at all in any of this?
Well, 2 of them do in the Senate and a handful do in the House, but they already cast them off in the House to get it through.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.